We have to remember that we should treat the world with a little bit of a sense of wonder, right? Wonder. There are amazing things happening. And I know we're looking back at a bunch of old-timey guys from the 1800s. What are we looking at? The non-consecutive president, the first non-consecutive president, Grover Cleveland. Grover Cleveland, the guy in the middle, some guy. I think it was Harrison, William Henry Harrison. I remember knowing that in school. It was such an interesting little unique part of American history. And we're there again. It happened. And this is an amazing moment in history. And this is just like the icing on the cake, really. Although it didn't feel like icing or cake over the past couple of years. It was hard. It was hard on us. It was hard on President Trump. The way they treated him, what they did to him, how they were going to... At one point, I thought they were going to destroy the country rather than let him become president. And now he's president. And now I'm getting a tour by the president in the Oval Office. These are amazing times. And it's not like he's just being the president. That's most presidents. They just want to be president. He wants to do things. The presidency allows him to get things done for the American people. And that makes him an outlier among politicians. Very few like that. Very, very few. One of the things I'm most excited about reform at the Pentagon. How about this? How about America doesn't lose any more wars, because we are on a terrible losing streak. There are a lot of reasons for that, but one is not mentioned very often. There's a culture of deception at the Pentagon. It's been growing for a long, long time. And, yep, when it comes to Hegseth, I had my doubts and reservations before he was confirmed. I expressed those. I said once he got confirmed, he'd have my support. And now he has my enthusiastic support. Some of the stuff he's doing over there, I don't think anyone else actually could pull it off but him. He's got a unique combination of guts, gumption, and ability. Check this out. Finally, they're just bursting this whole bubble about the generals. The generals. We're reducing the number of generals. About time.
We're back with more DOD reforms. This one is General and Flag Officer Reductions. That's the official title. My title is Less Generals, More GIs.
So it's almost like a dream. This is the generals, and they're good people, but so many of them just, something happens. I don't know if it's the water at the Pentagon. It's interesting. A lot of guys will give their life for their country, but after a certain point, they won't sacrifice their career for their country. And that's actually the harder thing to do. Next.
So there's two phases here. Phase one, we're looking at our current service structure. And in phase two, it's a strategic review of the Unified Command Plan. Now, this is going to be, we think, the most comprehensive review since the Goldwater-Nichols Defense Reorganization Act of 1986.
And that was a very, very big deal. Barry Goldwater, I think, they reworked the whole thing. There he is with Sam Nunn back in the day. They put the Secretary of Defense right there in the chain of command, and the combatant commanders, like the Southcom Command, would report to him and then report to the president. It's just streamlined the chain of command. Reducing the number of generals, though, it's so, he's on the right track when you listen to what some military guys, ex-military guys, are saying on CNN.
They're looking for constant destruction, and these generals are intimidating to folks like Pete Hegseth because they have what he doesn't, which is experience and good instincts.
There's not a lot of real substance to what he's trying to achieve. I think he's flexing his muscles. We don't need to be reminded that he's the SecDef. I got it. You're in charge. This is not the way you kind of embrace the organization.
Oh, the whole point is not to embrace the organization. That's what all secretaries do, right? They get owned by the bureaucracy. This is the opposite of that, and it's great. These generals, and it's not just this class picture. For decades now, 90% of them, number one, they can't speak the truth. I don't know how it happens, but I have seen them lie like crazy. We all have, actually. the Iraq War. Remember how they conned us about that one, right? Weapons of mass destruction and the rest. And everything was going great. Everything was going fantastic. Right up until ISIS took over. We got out. There goes ISIS. I mean, I thought the Iraqi security forces were supposed to be so awesome.
The situation in Fallujah over the last 2 or 3 weeks, as we all know, has been a very cooperative and peaceful.
The Iraqi security forces performed well across the country, generally well.
We're making progress in each of these areas every day. And while these efforts are progressing at a different pace, they're all moving forward in a positive and tangible manner.
The Iraqi security forces demonstrated on Sunday that they're up to the task. If it were a test, they passed with flying colors.
Just spin for decades, spin, not telling us the truth. And it was worse in Afghanistan. That war started actually on this island, technically, when you think about it, 9/11. It started here in New York, started on American soil. And then we went into a 20-year war that we ultimately lost. We lost. People don't seem to totally understand right now that the Afghanis, the Taliban, are running that country. The Taliban running that country. Hey, we'd love it if there was a legitimate Afghanistan, but there's not. And we left, and it's awful, just awful. And it was the same deal with the generals, telling us everything was going swimmingly right up until the day we got beat.
They showed me the positive changes they have helped bring about, the villages they can now enter, the Afghan police and forces they are training and trying to improve.
I think that the development of the Afghan army is on a very good path right now.
We've made tremendous strides, incredible progress in the last 20 months.
The solid partnership has been the thing that has been really striking for me all around the country.
It's fair to ask if we're winning in Afghanistan. I believe the answer is yes, and several facts allow me to say that with confidence.
And we've seen some great progress in some of the operations based, even at the tactical level, on the intelligence structure.
I like that one guy who said, are we winning or are we losing? I believe we can say we are winning, and several factors contribute to my confidence in that assessment. Who do you think you're fooling? Well, you fooled Congress, actually, and you fooled a good chunk of the American people who are listening, because we actually trusted you guys for a long time. Now, we trust the military, not the generals, sorry, but those who join at the boot camp level. They're fantastic, and they will risk their lives for their country, but something happens. I don't know if it's 10 years, 20 years, 25 years, something happens, something clicks, and a lot of them become more loyal to the organization than to the country. How do we explain two of the last three Joint Chiefs of Staff chairmen, Milley and Brown? Right in the middle of an election season, these guys come out and start spewing Democrat talking points when President Trump is in office, running for re-election, and start using Democrat George Floyd talking points. It was insane. It was basically mutiny.
I am outraged by the senseless and brutal killing of George Floyd.
As the commander of Pacific Air Forces, a senior leader in our Air Force, and an African American, many of you may be wondering what I'm thinking about the current events surrounding the tragic death of George Floyd.
We are still struggling with racism, and we have much work to do. Racism and discrimination, structural preferences, patterns of mistreatment.
I'm thinking about how full I am with emotion, not just for George Floyd, but the many African Americans that have suffered the same fate as George Floyd.
Unspoken and unconscious bias have no place in America.
I'm thinking about protests in my country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, the equality expressed in our Declaration of Independence and the Constitution that I've sworn my adult life to support and defend.
Maybe if these guys weren't so busy reading the New York Times and maybe reading, I don't know, tactical manuals and studying up on, Afghanistan and Iraq and efficiency and effectiveness. And it's been this way for so long. Vietnam, the generals weren't telling the truth. Colin Powell, man, this country gave him so much, right? So much, Colin Powell. And then he turned around and used all of that prestige essentially against the people who gave it to him. This is him back in the day boasting about I'm a Republican, but I'm not going to run for president. Anybody remember this?
I will continue to speak out forcefully in the future on the issues of the day, as I have been doing in recent weeks. I will do so as a member of the Republican Party and try to assist the party in broadening its appeal. I believe I can help the party of Lincoln move once again close to the spirit of Lincoln.
Well, he's dead now, so he can't say, look, he had his positive points. But in the end, you know, from his impassioned plea at the United Nations that there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, and, well, a famous black Republican who did everything he could to stick it to Republicans.
Will you endorse President Obama this race?
Well, you know, I voted for him in 2008, and I plan to stick with him in 2012, and I'll be voting for he and for Vice President Joe Biden next month.
Powell announced he will vote for Clinton, reportedly saying she is balanced, she has temperament, and no matter what anyone says, she has stamina.
I support Joe Biden for the presidency of the United States because those values still define him, and we need to restore those values to the White House.
He loved Democrats, just loved Democrats, the Republican, and got all of his big jobs from Republicans. Anyway, that's an example of the it infected the generals. It still infects the generals, present, retired, future, some of them. This is desperately needed reform at the Pentagon, and I am impressed. It is really, really happening. People make big promises. President Trump and his secretary, they are delivering.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.